Man, the more I train, the more I realize that the body is all about balance. Squatting every day is fantastic. I've praised it for quite a few months now. But the one thing that it potentially lacks is a balance, I guess. Squatting every day, high bar squatting every day, I guess it's very quad dominant. And I've touched on this before in previous videos. You have to balance that out with some sort of hamstring work. Now, the most optimal exercise for the posterior chain is the deadlift. The trouble with the deadlift is that it's very CNS draining. It's even more CNS draining than the squat. So how do you incorporate that into your squatting everyday routine? Well, with fear. The reason why I say that is that if you run both the deadlift and the squat, you're going to be burned. They're both very, very demanding from the central nervous system because both are dealing with quite heavy weight. Now, you could argue that you could probably deadlift at a lesser intensity with high volume. But even then, whenever I kind of do that, whether it's RDL, whether it's the deadlift off the ground or a block pull, my lower back cops it. It's the first thing that gives out for me. I have a strong glute on me. I have strong quads, and to target the hamstrings, it always kind of gets some attention when I do these movements, but usually my lower back gives out first. And so if I do that and smash my lower back, and then the consecutive days of squatting, I end up burning out and paying the price. The last couple of days I've been having quite a difficult time in recovery. I've had 2 night shifts, and I've also been doing some higher volume stuff with step ups and things of that nature. So I've kind of burnt myself out heavily. And so the last few days have been quite uneventful for me, even though I had the bench press PR, which came out of nowhere. I had no idea what that's about. So for the last few days, I've kind of been thinking about how do I incorporate some sort of balancing exercise with this squat everyday program and not punish my central nervous system. How do I go about that? Now, I have always been against hamstring curls, like isolated hamstring curls. But I've been experimenting with them. I don't have any equipment here. Obviously, I've got very, very minimal equipment. But I've been doing some banded stuff, around the door, around the squat rack, some band that I have. I don't even know what tension is or whatever, but just enough, mild tension. And I've been kind of pumping blood into the hamstring, and automatically I feel a little bit better in the hips. Now, some of these days, the last few days that I've kind of squatted 160, it's not that I can't push any further, it's just I feel discomfort in the hip. It's almost like there's an imbalance, and it's almost like the central nervous system inhibits the quads from pushing any further. I just feel instability in the hip, especially in the deep hole. So I've kind of been thinking along those lines, how do I incorporate posterior chain training without smashing the central nervous system? So I'm kind of at this level right now where I'm thinking about isolation exercise for the hamstring. There are many out there. You can do the glute bridges, glute thrusts, whatever, Brett Contreras kind of recommends. The trouble with that is that whenever you include hip extension and don't couple it with knee extension, you're asking for trouble because, nowhere in the sporting endeavor is there a moment where you are flexing your hips without there's no moments in the sporting field where you are extending the hips, i.e. thrusting your hips forward, without also extending the knee, as in you're jumping. So it's very unnatural movement. Even though it's really good for the glute, it doesn't address the natural way of movement, which is also extending the knee. So I'm kind of like scared to do that. There's been, some injuries documented about people that have done a lot of glute thrusts and glute bridges, that tearing hamstrings and stuff like that because, it's fantastic to develop strength in that range. But whenever the knee extends, the hamstring pops. Not that I'm going to be playing basketball or soccer or anything like that. I like thinking about movement, holistic manner. I like range of motion. I don't like, just pumping a short range of motion and then having the need to stretch then afterwards because the muscle is contracted for that range of motion. So I've started doing a little bit of leg curls, which has its own problems as well inherently because it completely removes the glute from the hamstring movement. Just like I just said to you about the glute bridges and the glute thrusts, this also has a negative portion of it because yes, you are extending the knee, you're flexing the knee, it's fantastic, you're working the hamstrings through that range of motion, but it's very unrealistic in that you don't generally have in human movement a scenario where you are engaging the hamstrings without engaging to some degree the glutes. They are usually a pair. They work together to extend the hip. So what do you do, right? How do you go about it? Ideally, you would do both squat and the deadlift in the same kind of program, and you would kind of work around your recovery. But when you're squatting every day, you need to be careful, right? Like something has to give somewhere. Otherwise, the program's not going to work because you're going to stall, you're going to be burnt out. You basically won't recover. So it's a long-winded explanation. I'm still searching for the right thing. But yeah, I'm basically chasing something that doesn't drain the CNS system, but at the same time hits the hamstrings. And yeah, hits the hamstring not with just high intensity, but with just volume. Kind of pump the hamstrings to a point where they get a bit of hypertrophy, and then balance out the quads on the other side, which are getting worked a whole lot because of squatting every day. So that's where I'm at right now. I've just hit, whatever that was, 170 today. Gonna leave it at that. I just don't feel stability. I don't feel like I'm in the state of mind to push through some heavy weight. So I'll continue experimenting with some hamstring work. I've said it now for a while that the hamstring work is a must if you're squatting every day, just because of this balancing idea. Initially I was doing block pulls and I had some sort of success with that, but I was finding that it was doing what I just said to you. It was taking a lot out of me to do block pulls at 150, 160 kilos, from mid shin, whatever. It's a load on the spine. These are some of the inherent difficulties with squatting every day. You're putting a lot of your eggs in one basket, so you kind of have to work around some of these things. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm gonna do some bench pressing now. Hopefully that goes well. Maybe there's another surprise, who knows. But yeah, in terms of the benching, I'll show you some footage now. I haven't done it yet, but I think that 135 bench press PR came from doing all these push-ups. If you guys don't know, I'm also doing grease in the groove push-ups. I'm testing every 15 days, doing push-ups throughout the day, 5 or 6 sets. I'm currently doing sets of 14 reps. Why 14? Well, it's 30% of my maximum repetitions that I tested a few days ago. And I feel like, yeah, I have some good pushing power. Whether it's a hypertrophy, whether it's grease in the groove, the nerves are kind of always on. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm having some success with push-ups. Think about it. If you're struggling with bench press and you've hit a bit of a plateau, think about some basic movements. We've all heard it over the years. Going back to basics usually gets us over the plateau. So yeah. Anyway, let's see what I can do with the bench press, and talk to you guys later. Should we go up? Let's do it. Should I go 137 or 140? Let's go 137 first. I've got no idea what's happening with my bench press. Feels like every second day I'm putting on gains, which I am. So that was 137.5 kilos. This is ridiculous, man. I haven't put that many gains in. Shit, man. Feels like the whole year. I have no idea what's going on. I think it's the push-ups. I don't know what else to say. I think it's the push-ups, and I think it's also because I haven't been pushing the squats heaps lately. Just feel so strong. I just feel like stable. You know, my whole shoulder girdle and everything feels strong. So this is exciting. This is exciting. I'm going to try and do exactly what I'm doing with the bench press. I'll continue doing the push-ups. And yeah, I guess I'll try and hit 140 in 2 days' time. I don't know what else is going on, but that's it for today, guys. So measly 170 squat and then an unbelievable bench press. Bench press is moving really well, guys. Cheers, guys. See you in the next one.